Joe, how have you been holding up?
Good. Being the president has its perks. The Reapers can't get me inside this bunker.
Did you hear from Donald?
Not for about 2 days. He said he was following a lead on something.
It's been a while, gentlemen. Sorry for being late. I just pulled about 20 families from a burning building and killed about 50 marauders with my bare hands.
Your fat ass didn't kill any marauder shields.
Sorry, I don't listen to the words of a man who's too scared to step outside and fight the Reapers.
You know, I can't believe Bernie was indoctrinated.
Come to think of it, he never actually sounded anything like Bernie Sanders. That thing must have been some Reaper clone sent to distract us.
Regardless, we may have a bit of an invasion on our hands, but we still have an obligation to the viewers. We must continue ranking the Mass Effect missions.
Very true, Donald. We've reached the end of it all. We're on Mass Effect 3. Let's begin with Prologue. Earth. We catch up with Commander Shepard, who has been incarcerated for their actions in Mass Effect 2.
We must thank the Arrival DLC for adding context to this, because otherwise, Shepard is being held on Earth for the crime of working with Cerberus to stop the Collectors.
We're introduced to James Vega, a new squad mate in Mass Effect 3, and we reunite with Admiral Anderson, and the Vermeer survivor greets us as well. We're told outright that the Reapers are here and coming with heat. Shepard has been called in to speak to the Alliance Committee.
We should note this is the first time we've set foot on Earth in the entire trilogy, and the first time we've met the upper command of the Human Alliance, just in time for the Reapers to show up and blow them all up.
6 months. Shepard slaughtered a colony to buy 6 months, and we spent the entire time doing nothing just for the Reapers to pull up on our porch.
We move on with Anderson so we can reach the Normandy, and for the first time since Mass Effect 1, we get to see and feel the power of the Reapers. They're annihilating entire city blocks, shooting down aircraft, and probably stomping out hundreds of lives by the second. It makes you really think, just how the hell are we supposed to win this again?
As we look for a way forward, we find,
Oh, look who it is, a random lost child. Don't let Joe near them.
I'm not going anywhere near that shitty brat. Not only did they ruin one of my favorite game franchises, it's probably just a figment of Shepard's imagination.
Honestly, the visuals of the mission cannot be praised enough. As we keep moving, a Reaper just drops down from orbit in front of us and blows up a dreadnought, creating a satisfying explosion. The kind of sound I dream about when I sleep.
The drone strike god king over here listens to things exploding like it's a woman rubbing lotion into a binaural microphone.
We move on so that we can find a radio to call the Normandy. This scene is meant to be a tense moment as we slowly start running low on ammo with no sign of help. But in reality, the arrival of the Normandy is triggered by your ammo count. So once you run out, the ship will arrive to pick you up.
You jump on the ship, but Anderson isn't coming. The goat will stay on Earth to hold it down for us while we go to the Council for help.
This mission is essentially just a tutorial. You're given simple enemies to train on and a temporary squad mate to work with. However, in terms of a beginning to the ending of the trilogy, it is peak.
The music, atmosphere, and narrative importance carry this otherwise short mission to the top. You say goodbye to Admiral Anderson, swearing to return with help and ride off into space, watching the Reapers wreak havoc on the ground below. As you zoom out, you see that the entire planet is already burning. Things are bleak. The Reaper invasion we heard about so long ago has finally begun. Prologue. Earth is S tier.
It's actually incredible how well this game started and how much worse it gets the closer you get to the ending, but we'll get there later.
Next up, Admiral Hackett orders us to go to the Mars archives to help locate some Prothean data that might be our answer to defeating the Reapers. However, the people there have not been responding to calls.
It doesn't take long for us to deduce that Cerberus is behind the disturbance here quickly, creating some unwarranted tension between Shepard and the Vermeer survivor.
Oh, please, we're still upset that the Vermeer survivor doesn't trust Shepard like a walking, talking drone?
I would have agreed with you in Mass Effect 2, Don. However, in 3, the Vermeer survivor is being extra as fuck. By this point, Shepard has wholly broken ties with Cerberus, which James points out with our communications being restricted. Shepard even brought the Normandy SR-2, which technically does belong to Cerberus, to the Alliance. At this point, not trusting Shepard is just blind skepticism, which is just as bad as blind faith.
Also, the writing here kind of just ignores that the Vermeer survivor tries to make amends with Shepard in the email after the Horizon mission.
So this is what we're doing, criticizing the writing choices in 3?
If the boot fits.
Won't get any complaints from me. Moving on, we found Liara here and massive points to her. Following Rule 2, double tap.
Liara has been helping the Alliance go through the Prothean data. and confirms the existence of a device that could wipe out the Reapers.
Shepard points out that we've known about the archives for decades and only just found this so-called device, to which Liara responds, process of elimination and some other bullcrap. It's a deus ex machina, but we've already discussed why the Crucible data is doo-doo dog shit from a writing perspective, so we'll move on.
We send James back to the shuttle, and Liara joins us in the fight against Cerberus. For the most part, this mission still operates as a tutorial, teaching us how to use team combos and new gameplay mechanics like cover maneuvers and sneak attacks. But it's still a decently fun mission.
As we explore, we come across footage of Dr. Eva, who was a new arrival to the Mars facility. It turns out she's the one who sabotaged the place by venting the rooms where people were still working.
I guess Cerberus has finally gone full-on bad guy.
They were always full-on bad guy. Your humanity-centric mind blinded you, Donald.
We get a funny moment where Shepard is forced to improvise to trick the Cerberus operatives, and surprisingly enough, it works. At the end of the mission, we find a Prothean beacon-looking device that holds the Crucible data. But before we can access it, look at who appears, the elusive man.
Tim is here to tell us that his goals lie in dominating the Reapers to harness their power to strengthen humanity.
Speaking of which, shouldn't you vibe with the elusive man based on that?
I might be human first, but I'm no fool. I know a Reaper trick when I see one.
You wouldn't know a Reaper trick if it bit you in the ass. Orange-colored organic.
Yo, what the f***?
How did you get in here?
Kick it, Barack. Get it out of here.
That was weird. Anyway, Dr. Eva pops up and runs with the data. And for some reason, the Vermeer survivor folds like a lawn chair.
This chase scene is just for show. You cannot catch Eva.
Before we can leave, though, Eva gets up and reveals she's some synthetic. She takes the Vermeer survivor by the head and just lays down an ass whipping. Shepard takes it out, and we bring the body along as we leave. Just in time, too, because Reapers start descending on Mars.
Two ways to look at this mission. On the one hand, we get reintroduced to Liara, find information that could help us defeat the Reapers, and it establishes Cerberus as a central threat.
However, the sudden existence of the Crucible data shows just how poorly thought out this whole thing was. Such information should have been established in Mass Effect 2. Cerberus becoming a major threat kind of pales in comparison to the fact that the Reapers are laying siege to Earth as we speak. Overall, this mission should probably fit somewhere in B or C tier.
It's mid. I can't think of anything particularly outstanding about the Mars archives, but there isn't anything particularly awful about it either.
We'll just put it in C tier. I understand that there is technically a mission called Priority, the Citadel 1 next, but that's really just arriving on the Citadel to speak to the Council. So we'll move on to Priority. Palaven, the Turian counselor, has asked us to rescue their leader, the Primarch, from the moon Menai, which is under Reaper attack.
Oh, hell yeah, my type of mission. We show up in the middle of an all-out war between the Reapers and Turians.
And it looks like the greatest military in the galaxy isn't doing so hot.
Not so tough now, you dumb alien lizard birds.
Many people dislike Mass Effect 3 for abandoning the role-play elements to be more action-oriented. Still, considering we're in a galactic invasion, I believe this setting is appropriate. As you look around, you can see Palaven burning in the background and Turian fighters engaging the Reapers.
When we meet up with the General, he tells us that the Turian Primarch has already been taken out. So our task is linking up with their replacement, a man named Victus. First, we must repair the communications tower.
After helping out the Turians, we return and meet up with Garrus, who is apparently so important now that he has generals saluting him and referring to him as Sir. It turns out Garrus is pretty high up in the Turian hierarchy.
I knew it. I knew there was a reason I hated this Turian Birdman. He's a part of the deep state, the Turian swamp. We should have left his ass on Omega.
There's an issue with the Normandy, so Liara returns to deal with it, and Garrus joins us in the fight on the moon. We get introduced to one of the most legendary opponents in gaming history, Marauder Shields.
A foe worthy of being included in the final act of the trilogy. The collectors have nothing on Marauder Shields. Oh, and we also meet brutes too, I guess.
As we move on, we get a little refresher on the tension between the Krogans, Turians, and Solarians, and eventually make it to the final camp, where we help them clear the Reaper forces.
And then we meet one of the rare badass Turians, Adrian Victus.
Victus is explained to us as a results first, rules second kind of guy. He's precisely the kind of person we need leading the negotiations instead of just some wishy-washy politician who can only make concessions over and over until there's nothing but a watered-down plan.
You shouldn't throw stones from inside a glass house, Joe.
I learned from the best, Barry.
We leave Minai with the new Primarch, but with a new goal. Bring the Krogans to Palaven, and the Turians will help us retake Earth.
And given the bad blood the Krogan have with the galaxy, that may be a tall order. It should also be noted that after this mission, you'll be prompted to go to the AI core on the Normandy, where you will meet Edie in her new body.
That aside, Priority Palaven continues a solid start to Mass Effect 3, giving us great combat and atmosphere and showing us how far the Reaper War has come with the Turians fighting for their lives.
It's a short mission, but it packs a lot of greatness into a small time frame. I believe Priority Palaven is A tier. Next, we'll take a slight detour from the main story and hit Priority Eden Prime. We've been tasked with returning to where everything started because Cerberus discovered a Prothean artifact, and we need to keep them from uncovering its secrets.
Oh boy, this mission is a controversial one.
This is probably one of, if not the worst offender of Day 1 DLC.
You poors always complaining about having to buy things. Sorry the world doesn't hand out goodies for free. Sometimes you have to do a little work.
Uh-huh. How much money did your daddy loan you again, Donald?
Enough to rent out all the empty space in your head.
Gentlemen, we are on the last game, and you've done remarkably well behaving yourselves. Don't break now. Anyway, the monetization of the DLC aside, when we find the Prothean artifact, Liara lets us know that this is no ancient object. It's a living Prothean.
That's right. A member of the race we learned about all the way back in Mass Effect 1, in the flesh.
But before we can meet him, we need to find instructions on opening the pod. So as we explore and fight through Cerberus agents, Shepard can interact with some consoles and see recordings of the Protheans' Reaper War.
To summarize, the Prothean leader here was meant to lead a legion of his brothers into the new cycle, but they're compromised by collectors. After a neutron purge, the virtual intelligence is forced to triage power, leaving only one survivor after 50,000 years.
I believe this mission is pretty good. Getting introduced to Javik, a Prothean, is a heavy scene.
Yeah, but Javik and the flashback are the only thing this mission had. It's good enough, but not great.
Stick it in B tier with the original Eden Prime mission.
Done. And we'll continue with some side missions, moving on to Grissom Academy emergency evacuation. This mission is on a timer and needs to be done before Priority the Citadel 2.
Put this poorly designed mission in F tier.
Oh, right. This whole thing started because Joe can't play the atrium section.
Maybe if he weren't charging around like a bot.
Cerberus is here looking to steal the Academy students for some experiments. Kaylee Sanders points us in the right direction. And after fighting some Cerberus guys, we run into our old friend Jack, who has turned over a new leaf and teaches these kids how to use their biotics.
I'm sorry, but do these kids look like middle-aged adults to anyone else?
They probably should have come up with some smaller models if they wanted us to think these people were actually teenagers.
At least Jack dropped the occult haircut and put on a damn jacket.
The development for Jack here is nice. In Mass Effect 2, she was a loner, and now she's a teacher with a bunch of students she cares for.
It's just too bad we don't actually get to see this transition.
Anyway, once we finish talking to Jack and get through the door, we make it to the damned atrium.
Joe, it's not that damned hard if you know what you're doing.
Whatever, the mission gets better once you get past the atrium because now we get to steal a mech and turn the Cerberus agents into pudding.
Now we're in agreement. Nothing is more satisfying than shooting and watching all the Cerberus guys just turn into a red mist.
After saving the kids, we leave the Academy and we get to choose between letting them take a support role or letting them join in biotic artillery strikes. The support role offers fewer war assets, but in the artillery strike role, you'll potentially see that Jack's students didn't survive the war.
I like this mission for the challenge. Mass Effect 3 can be tackled fairly easily, but this mission is a good wake-up call that you're not allowed to just do everything for free.
Who plays Mass Effect for the challenge? We're here for the story and the characters.
No surprise you play all 3 games on the easiest difficulty, Joe.
Ultimately, the Grissom Academy mission is fairly mid. It has a good challenge, and we get to see Jack again, but that's all there is to it. So I think we should give it a C tier and move back to the main story with Priority, Sir Kesh. We finally meet with the Solarian Dalatras Victus and the Krogan leader to negotiate an alliance.
The Krogan leader will either be Rex or his brother Reeve, though 99% of cases you're probably looking at Rex.
And Rex has a straightforward demand, a cure for the genophage, and he'll help the Birdmen save their burning planet.
This is when your choice at the end of Morden's loyalty mission starts coming into play. If you keep the data, things between you and Rex will continue as normal. However, if you destroy it, Rex will know, and he won't be happy about it.
Good thing I'd never be smooth-brained enough to destroy Malin's data.
We learned that some of the female Krogan from Malin's experiments did in fact overcome the genophage, but the Solarians took them off Tuchanka for study and healthcare, and now we're going to Surkesh to get them.
We get some good interactions in this mission, a great call back to Mass Effect 1. Liara and Garrus will reminisce with Rex, and you'll even run into Kirahe if he survived the operation on Vermeer.
This is one area where Mass Effect 3 excels. The squad mates actually speak up during missions.
Anyway, we move on to grab the female Krogan and we meet up with Morden again.
This mission is packed with some of the best characters in the trilogy because right after Morden, we meet the only surviving female Krogan of Malon's experiments. Eve, the only hope the Krogan have to cure the genophage.
Things start falling apart because Cerberus strikes intent on stopping us. Now we must race up to the upper level while Morden and Eve take the elevator.
Great combat and tension here. Cerberus is here in force, and even Kirahe shows us that the Solarians can do a lot more than run their mouths.
We end the mission by saving Eve and returning to the Normandy with her and Morden.
This is a top mission in my book, great dialogue between the characters, and a tense fight against Cerberus. And it's the beginning of what is probably the best story arc of the game.
I can't complain about anything in regard to this mission. It comes in, does its job well, and we move on.
Solid A-tier mission, a great start to the first major storyline.
Next up, we pick up a request from Rex. One of his squads has gone missing in the Attican Traverse. They were apparently investigating the Rachni.
Aha, told you those damn roaches couldn't be trusted.
Before we get around to the issues with this mission, we get greeted by one of our former squad mates, Grunt.
That's my boy. It's only been 6 months and Grunt has already earned a place in Clan Erdnot, leading his own squad of special operatives called Aralok Company.
A good deal of development from Grunt here, from new and unproven to a leader in his own right. Grunt fills us in on the mission, and we descend into the cavern below until we're reunited with our old friends, the Rachni, who have gone through some Reaper modifications.
Great, so now they're spiders instead of roaches. Someone get me about 50 cans of Raid so I can show these bugs how we do things.
A new type of enemy is introduced here. They're called Ravagers, and they are either a non-issue or extremely annoying with the way they pin you down and keep you locked to cover.
Moving on, we find some Reaper technology and link back up with Grunt, who holds things down for us while we investigate further. Eventually, after a tough fight, we unlock the door to the central chamber.
And this is where things get a bit controversial, to say the least. In this chamber, we meet up with the Rachni Queen, or if you killed the original queen, a Rachni breeder that the Reapers created.
Upon first glance, this seems like something different, but in reality, it's mostly the same, and it's almost like your choice in Mass Effect 1 didn't matter. Clearly, the Rachni should not be here at all if you kill the queen, but because that would require a completely different quest, they just decided to give us roughly the same thing.
The only difference is in the dialogue. The breeder is much more hostile sounding and aggressive, while the old queen we met is much more understanding. These interactions should clue you into what you should do. Spare them if it's the original queen, but kill them if it's the breeder, who is a creation of the Reapers and by default would be indoctrinated.
More like kill them both, because regardless of which one it is, Aralok Company will take serious losses, and I'll be damned if I pick some bugs over Grunt and his squad.
It is worth pointing out that Grunt will die here if he is unloyal and you choose to save the queen or breeder.
In the end, we escape the nest, and Grunt will, hopefully, emerge from the cave covered in the remains of his enemies looking for a bite to eat.
Attaboy, Grunt, we're going to McDonald's, and it's all you can eat on Papa Trump.
I got mixed feelings about this mission. On one hand, I like Grunt and think his developments are great. On the other hand, the fact that this mission cares not for your original choice is kind of BS.
One, I suppose, cool thing about this mission is it doesn't necessarily punish you for making the wrong choice. It punishes you for being inconsistent in your morality. If you killed the queen in one and spare the breeder, you'll end up losing war assets when the breeder betrays you and kills some Alliance personnel. Likewise, if you spare the queen and then kill her in 3, you'll lose out on her war assets.
I would ultimately give this a C tier. Combat-wise, it's a lame mission. The bugs aren't particularly engaging opponents. I also dislike the narrative. Much like the Okir mission, the only thing good about it is Grunt.
No shot. We're not putting another Grunt mission below B tier.
Nah, Barry is right. Grunt, as good a character as he is, can't carry this mission higher. It's C tier.
Now we have a request from Victus. One of his teams has been downed on Tuchanka on some super secret mission that Victus is being very secretive about.
They're goddamn birds and they can't even fly straight.
Also, I should add that this mission is a two-parter, but for simplicity's sake, we'll be counting it as one, calling it Tuchanka, Turian Platoon.
On our way down to Tuchanka, we find out the man in charge of this mission is Adrian Victus's son, named Tarquin. Bringing Garrus along will add some flavor, giving us some insight into the Turian military code.
We're tasked with rescuing Tarquin and his men. And along the way, we run into Reaper forces, most notably the Harvesters, which make constant appearances in the mission.
Those damn worm necks can be a pain. It doesn't take more than like 2 shots to kill you if you play on insanity difficulty, so you're stuck to cover until you take them out.
But they make such a satisfying kaboom when you defeat them.
In the last area, we have one big battle against brutes, marauders, husks, and eventually one last harvester. Thankfully, you can pick up a Reaper Black Star and quickly conclude the fight.
Meeting up with the lieutenant, we see he's having some trouble keeping his men in line because his bad orders got a bunch of people killed.
They can't fly ships, their lieutenants make dumbass decisions. These people are supposed to be the best military in the Milky Way. Please, humans, clear the Turians any day of the week.
Tarquin will tell us that their mission was to defuse a bomb that Cerberus has acquired. The Turians want to give up, but we can't let that happen. So Shepard talks some sense into the lieutenant and he gets his men to fall in line.
Pivoting into the second part of this story arc, we're still on Tuchanka trying to defuse the bomb that isn't a Cerberus bomb, but rather a Turian one. It was something the birds left as insurance in case the Krogan tried to rise up again.
Okay, I'm starting to see where Donald is coming from with the Turians being stupid. Obviously, you dropped the bomb first and then threatened to do it again and use that fear as insurance.
Well, with you, Barry, it's more like you dropped the bomb a first time, a second time, and then about over 9,000 more times after that.
You were there with me every step of the way, Joe.
If you both are done reminiscing, we're here pushing through more Cerberus troops until we come up on the bomb. Tarquin has to hack past a firewall so he can shut the bomb down. So we need to protect him while more Cerberus troops show up.
In the end, Tarquin is forced to sacrifice himself to secure victory at any cost. For a character who was so short-lived, his death was impactful. Once again, showing us what it will take to win the Reaper War, Tarquin was one of many sacrifices that will be made.
Overall, these missions are relatively mid. They rely mostly on combat, and the only real punch comes from the end when Tarquin dies.
Also, we're doing the missions some favors by combining them because separately I'd say they're both D tier, but treated as a continuous assignment, they can get a bit of a boost to C tier.
Now it's time to finish this with priority Tuchanka. The cure to the genophage is nearly complete, and now we're going to the Shroud to dispense the cure into the atmosphere of the Krogan homeworld to finally end their plague once and for all.
But before we can head out, we get a little call from the Solarian Dalatras, who offers us an ultimatum. Sabotage the genophage cure, and she'll send us the best Solarian scientists to work on the Crucible.
I knew those slimy, wiggly, stupid-ass amphibians were no good.
For a race as intelligent as the Solarians, this is pretty stupid. Given the nature of the Reaper War, they should send their best scientists to the Crucible project regardless, but whatever. We move on to Tuchanka, where we'll need to take care of some husks in the hollows. Once we do, the male Krogan will start beefing with each other until Eve shows up and sets things straight, and everyone resolves to work together to cure the genophage.
You're given an opportunity to do this on the shuttle, but will be interrupted. So on the way to the Shroud, Shepard gets the chance to either reveal the sabotage or hide it from the team. If you reveal it, Morden will say he can work around it. But if you hide it, well, things get a bit interesting. We'll discuss it later.
Unfortunately, we crash, and our attack on the Reaper at the Shroud is delayed. The Turians show up to fight, but the birds can't do anything on their own, apparently.
We split off from Rex and the others and make our way through the ruins of old Tuchanka, encountering Reaper troops and feeling the tremors of Calros, the mother of all thresher maws.
You know it's bad when they name one of the giant worms.
Unreal respect for Calros for killing Reeve. That dude is nothing but trouble.
When we link back up with Rex, we have a pretty insane idea on our hands. We're going to run up on the Reaper on foot to activate the nearby maw hammers and summon Calros to the Reaper.
Meh, Shepard and crew have done worse.
A notable moment from Rex here. If you've been a true friend to him through the trilogy, he'll call you a brother or sister to the Krogan people, dab you up, and then declare that Tuchanka is his planet and rush off to go smash some bugs.
That's my boy Rex. Back in Mass Effect 1, he'd said he had given up on the Krogan, and now he's doing everything he can. This is why he's a top companion in the trilogy, despite only being with us for one game.
Now we begin our marathon toward the Reaper, having to dodge brutes in the Reaper's legs as we activate the hammers. We might not have made it if the Artemech wing hadn't come back.
We activate the maw hammers and then...
Watch out, watch out, watch out. Oh, the RKO came out of nowhere.
I think I stopped being afraid of Reapers the moment one of them got folded into the dirt by a big ass worm.
Moving inside the shroud, we meet up with Morden. If you saved Malin's data in Mass Effect 2, Eve will survive the operation. But if you destroyed it, she will unfortunately be gone.
If Eve is alive, there isn't much reason to do anything else but let Morden go up and properly cure the genophage. He will die up there, but it is a worthy sacrifice and an excellent conclusion to Morden's character.
And even if Eve is dead, Rex is trustworthy enough to lead the Krogan, and we certainly don't want to betray our good friend, right?
Even if it's Reeve alive with Eve, it's still fine to cure the genophage because Eve can keep him in check.
Plus, sabotaging the genophage here requires you to be an absolute menace, because you'll have no choice but to shoot Morden, where he will briefly defy death to try to cure the genophage but ultimately fail. Heartbreaking stuff looking at this scene.
If you do this while Rex is alive, he will pull up on you at the Citadel to reenact your standoff from Vermeer. Except this time, there's no talking him out of this. Meaning either Shepard or C-Sec will kill Rex. You gotta be on your Sith Lord arc to deliberately do this.
A unique situation comes up if you happen to kill Rex in Mass Effect 1 and destroy Malin's data. You'll be able to convince Morden to fake curing the genophage because Urdnot Reeve will absolutely try to retake the galaxy after the Reaper War. This will result in you getting the support of both the Solarians and Krogans because Reeve is too dumb to figure it out. Morden will also survive through the game and can be talked to during the final mission.
All that aside, the most common outcome is when you cure the genophage with Rex alive, finally putting an end to this entire storyline.
And let's all say it together, shall we?
S plus tier.
Priority Tuchanka is the culmination of some of the best story arcs in the trilogy, from Rex's and Morden's character developments to the resolution of the genophage storyline.
The mission itself is complex in its roleplay options. While many people will likely never actually experience killing Morden or betraying Rex, the fact that those outcomes exist makes it stand out. If you have the stomach for it, you can truly play an evil. Results first. Damn the morality, Commander Shepard.
Any mission where a giant worm shows up and suplexes a Reaper is a goated mission in my book. No debate to be had on this one.
But I'm sure there will be a debate on this next mission, Priority Citadel 2. We get a call from the Solarian counselor who tells us Udina is up to no good. When we try to dock, we get no answer from Citadel Control. We'll be informed by Thane that Cerberus has invaded in an attempt to take control of the Citadel.
I've said it once and I'll say it again. Cerberus was right to invade the Citadel. This made the Council finally take the Reaper War seriously.
Setting aside Donald's glazing, we arrive while some C-Sec forces are trying to retake headquarters. We meet up with Commander Bailey and move on, intent on saving the Council.
Dirty business from Cerberus here. Coming across some bodies, we see that many of the victims were shot in the back of the head, and some guys were even caught in the restroom. Can't even take a leak in peace these days.
We're unfortunately too late to save the Executor, but the Solarian counselor managed to keep themselves alive. That is, until, well, there he is.
Kai snuck into your apartment and ate your cereal. Lang is on the scene, stinking up the entire lobby.
He really thinks he's Nightwing with that getup. Dick Grayson doesn't know you, lil bro.
We confront Lang, and just before he can try to kill the counselor, he'll be interrupted by Thane, who takes him on in close combat.
All right, Frog Boy, not too bad.
Unfortunately, the writers decided to give Kai Lang some plot armor here, because Shepard and company don't back Thane up. And even though Thane clearly has the advantage, he runs towards the guy who brought a sword to a gunfight.
Even if Thane dies, this is still an immense L for Kai Lang. Imagine being an assassin and letting a guy with lung cancer keep you from killing your target. A total embarrassment.
Should also add that if Thane isn't around for this, Kirahi will step forward and take a bullet for the counselor.
And if both Thane and Kirahi are dead, the counselor will die and Udina will use some doctored footage to try and pin it on Shepard.
Wait, what?
Oh, you didn't know that, did you, Donald?
I take it all back, Udina, and his coup d'etat, shoot him dead.
Don't worry, we will. We take off after Lang and he jumps on our car, and I gotta say, this dude has titanium-level plot armor. Why in the hell doesn't Shepard flip the Sky Car and send him into the lake?
After we make it through the Cerberus forces, we get into an elevator and chase after the Council and the Vermeer survivor who is escorting them. When we meet up with them, we're holding each other at gunpoint.
Few ways for this to play out. If you haven't been paying the Vermeer survivor visits in the hospital, they'll potentially refuse to stand down, and either you or your squad mate will shoot them.
Kind of an interesting choice here. We left the Vermeer survivor on relatively good terms on Mars, so for them to be willing to kill us over Udina of all people is a tad odd.
If you were a good friend to them, however, they'll listen to you and draw their gun on Udina. who attempts to unlock the door that might contain Cerberus operatives, the Asari counselor will stop him, and Udina will pull out his gun.
Then you can either shoot Udina yourself or let the Vermeer survivor do it, and I always do it. Been waiting to do that for 3 games.
The mission concludes with the rest of the counselors surviving and promising to be more helpful to Shepard. Kai Leng escapes into the tunnels, and in one final meeting with the Vermeer survivor, you can either let them rejoin you on the Normandy or send them to Admiral Hackett, where they will contribute war assets.
Citadel 2 is an interesting mission. Cerberus invading the Citadel does admittedly do a lot to move the narrative forward because it serves as a wake-up call to all the people who think they're safe there.
And regardless of how you feel about the Vermeer survivor, the conflict with them comes to an end here.
However, just the fact that Kai Leng is in this mission, and we watch one of the most beloved squad mates lose to the plot for no reason, ought to drop this mission a fair bit.
I say we put it in B tier. Still a good mission, but some of the writing decisions in it are pretty annoying.
So, gentlemen, if you'll pardon me for a moment, I need to go take care of something.
I don't like the sound of that, Donald. What are you up to?
Nothing that concerns you, old man. I'll be back.
It's fine. We've reached a good stopping point. We'll continue when Donald returns.